from the rest of the board. January begins the budget cycle, and many difficult decisions will have to be made this year as grants provided during the COVID pandemic have run out. I encourage all of you to attend our budget workshops to get out other parents and your friends to attend. More information about getting out the budget information to the public will be forthcoming from the communications subcommittee. The first budget meeting will be Tuesday, January 17th at 6 p.m. in the school auditorium. And I presume it's on Zoom also.
No, it is not.
We're not going to do them on
Are we
Zoom.
zooming it? Yes. We don't usually do budget workshops.
Oh, the budget. I would assume we should.
Oh, then you can ask for that.
Can I ask for that? I think they should be Zoomed. We'll get more people to at least attend, if we do them hybrid.
Bryce and Heather, you good with that?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Also, I want to remind everyone, there's a town meeting concerning funding for several important projects for the school on Wednesday, January 18th at 7 p.m. in the school auditorium. The legal notice describing these products is posted on the town website. Also, the Villager carried an article on the front page last Friday. And you can, if you didn't get the Villager or if you threw your copy away, to be recycled. It's online. And briefly, these updates to briefly, these projects are updates to our HVAC system, repair of the track, and security improvements. Now, the citizens' comments. Please state your name. If there are any citizen comments, please state your name, address for our secretary, Danielle. And please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Are there any citizens' comments at this time? Hearing none, I will move on to student spotlight and our liaison report.
Good evening. Due to the winter holiday, the student council did not meet this month. Therefore, I have no board report, just the student spotlight.
Okay.
So without further review, I'd like to announce the student spotlight for the month of December. Each month, Turtle Memorial High School Student Spotlight Program recognizes a student who has demonstrated outstanding achievement, character, leadership, attitude, and/or contributions to the school community. December Student Spotlight honoree is the freshman Brianna Martin. Brianna was nominated by Hannah LeClaire, Eileen Martell, Mrs. Leonard, and Mrs. Zoulet. In Brianna's nomination, Hannah states, "I haven't known her long, but whenever I am around her, she is such a ray of sunshine. She is very personable and always willing to step up. She is very involved in the school with yearbook, leadership, and more, and is always ready to take a leadership role when it is needed. Brianna is friendly to all and deserves this recognition. She demonstrates all the qualities a student spotlight should have." Brianna's friend Eileen says, "Brianna Martin isn't the typical person. Being new to the school, I was scared and worried I would be lost, except it was completely different, all because of Brianna. She was welcoming and open to meeting new people constantly. Soon enough, she became my best friend. I'd just like to say thank you to her, on behalf of myself and others, for checking in after a bad day, for always being there with no questions asked, and for always offering the best advice and help that she can. Brianna creates such an impact on others' lives without noticing it." Mrs. Lennon says, "Brianna Martin is one of those students who genuinely wants to do well, but more importantly wants those around her to do well. I am constantly overwhelmed by how selfless she is, even when other people may choose to advance themselves. She is the definition of the kind of person who makes everyone feel like someone. She is a conscientious student who has a bright future ahead of her in whatever she chooses to do, given her work ethic." Finally, Ms. Soulette adds, "Brianna has hit the ground running in high school and has made a great impression on the staff and students here at TMHS. She was elected by her peers to be vice president of her class and quickly became an active member of the student council, as well as the Turtle Out leadership team, having already volunteered for several events, including TMHS Expo Night, Thompson Community Day, the TMHS Promotion Assembly, and Alumni Career Day. Brianna is a fine example of how to make the most of your high school experience from day one, and I look forward to seeing how much more she will impact TMHS in the coming years. Brianna is not only involved in her school community, but is also an excellent student. She achieved high honors throughout middle school and has maintained these grades in high school. When asked what motivates her, Brianna says, "My greatest motivations would have to be my family, friends, and my teachers. These people play an important part in my life because they are constantly supporting me in everything I want to do and help me accomplish all of my goals I aim to complete. Seeing success from the people around me makes me strive to be the best I can be and put 110% into everything I do. They affirm to me that I can do anything I want to do if I put my mind to it." About her future, Brianna states, "Although I'm not sure what I would like to do, I do know that I'm looking forward to embarking on the journey to discover my passions in life and form goals for the future at TMHS." Finally, Brianna's message to the school and community is, "Thank you to the people who have supported me and nominated me for this award. I am so happy to be a part of this welcoming community full of kindness. It truly feels great to be recognized for just being myself, and it shows the saying, you get out of life what you put into it, is true. Thank you again, and I can't wait to continue leaving my mark at TMHS." Congratulations, Brianna.
Speech.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
On behalf
Very
of
nice.
myself and the board, thank you very much. Thank you, and continue your good work. And yes,
Oh, I'd just like to say, I think it's great to see freshmen get this award.
Yeah.
So often it's seniors, and that's great to recognize how, graduating seniors and everything, but see it as a freshman, that's fantastic.
yes,
Congratulations.
it is very unusual. You're right.
Congratulations to your parents as well.
Yeah.
You're a good kid.
Because it starts at home, so thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on, we'll approve the. Yeah, you're welcome to leave now.
Time to
We'll
do
do your.
it. Have a great night.
All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our December 12th meeting.
I'll make the motion, Kathleen.
Fight it out. Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Any discussions on the minutes? No discussion? Okay, I'll put the motion to a vote. All in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Abstentions? None, the motion passes. Okay, next item on the agenda is subcommittee updates. Subcommittee communications, we just had that one, so it should be fresh in your mind.
We just met today. Our last meeting was in November, so we had a little time in between. A lot of the initiatives that we started discussing back in November have all kind of been put in motion to different levels of completion. One of our kind of consistent ongoing initiatives is the Did You Know posts, which I'm hoping everyone sees on our Facebook and Twitter feeds. Another thing we were talking about was ways to enhance our sporting events, be it swag, potentially having a cameo appearance of the mascot every once in a while, potentially using halftime shows every once in a while. One of the things that are going to happen in February is that the group that is doing, is it dance? that they're doing? Yeah, a dance program within Intercession is going to put on a show for us at 2 basketball games, one for the high school boys and one for the high school girls. We also talked about potentially having the communications group kind of help with senior nights as well to kind of enhance those special nights for our athletes. In addition, we talked about the referendum and the budget support coming up, both for the January referendum as well as for the big May budget referendum. Putting together similar kind of information that we did last time through the informational handouts, being present at the transfer station leading up to the vote to kind of make sure townspeople know what's happening and to kind of help gather up our parent and student forces to help us get that information out to the town. Also, we were looking at additional ways that the communications subcommittee can support our students, either through promoting their pride initiatives that they're working on, the Mary Poppins production, as well as the incentive program that's in motion this year.
Okay. Now, the negotiations subcommittee did meet, but that's later on in the agenda, so we'll talk about that then. We didn't, the policy committee, we talked about that the last meeting. And so.
Correct.
Any other? We need to meet as the trustee.
Trustees.
Yeah, we need to set a date for that. We need to send the agenda for that.
Will do.
Okay, thank you. All right, well, we'll move on to the enrollment report.
Okay, so this is the typical time of the year that we start to see fluctuations in enrollment. Usually after the holidays, we either enroll students or students withdraw because they've moved out of town. We're seeing that in the numbers this month. We have currently 895 students enrolled in Thompson Public Schools. That's down 5 students from last month. In Marriott Fisher, we have 388 students. At the middle school, we have 285, and at the high school, we have 220. If you look at our out of district placement numbers, they have gone up a bit. But however, in total, Mr. Jones is working, Dr. Jones is working, with families to try to bring more children back into the district, but we can have a little bit of a bump up in some of those placements, and he'll talk more about that. Overall, next month we can see, an increase of students enrolling. So it differs from month to month. You just look across on the high school, you can see that we had a high in August, and then it went down, and then it went back up. And so kids are coming and going. We are a transient district where students are moving in and moving out depending upon what the family circumstances are. So we are seeing a lot of that. And then under my report, just a little reminder that on Wednesday, we have our regional parent expo. We have 15 presenters coming to that evening event. We had decided as superintendents to hold it in Putnam because it was more centrally located. The event is free, funded in part, at least on the Thompson side, by Title I parents set aside money. We're offering free childcare and free dinner. And the workshops are free to families. So we are hoping, there's been a lot of advertising around the community and around the region. So we are hoping it's going to be well attended by our families. I'm excited about the caliber of presenters, especially Dr. Ravit Stein and Dr. Zeller, who are doing some keynote presentations. So I hope if parents can, and parents listening on in virtual land, come out that night. I think you're going to find that you're going to get good information from some really well-recognized educators and community agencies in the region. So.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to move on to administrative reports, and I'll start with Dr. Mayo.
First thing, obviously, Brianna, congrats, as you guys said too, I put on here that she's a freshman, that's even more impressive. She's really a shining example of what we have at Turnaround, the students we want to promote. Thank you to Jeff Bolte for streaming our games. Production's been really good for a lot of positive parents, also for the VIPs, which my good friend Evan is supporting, is my model over here, thank you. Came out really nice. Him and Ms. Browdy worked on those. I appreciate that. It's a good answer for me. And then just a reminder, January 20th is the Royal Engagement Mystery Dinner Theater. I know Kate Anderson and the kids working really hard on that. 2 shows, 5 and 7 p.m.
I understand Mrs. Bernardo is ill tonight.
She is.
Okay, then we'll move on to Mr. Prentice.
Hi, folks at the elementary school. I'm just gonna keep it light here. A lot of fun stuff happening in the month of December. Congratulations to those students that were present 12 or more days for the attendance incentive. That worked out very well. They received some golden tickets. The students were thrilled about the attendance. Great job to those folks. Remember, it's not about perfect attendance, it's just about helping attendance, increasing attendance, consistent attendance. Of course, thank you goes out to Superintendent Smith. I think this is your third or fourth year now, reading to the kindergartners, the ginger. Okay.
But who's counting?
Well, COVID kind of messed that up. Yeah.
But the kindergarten kids are thrilled. She comes down, she reads the kids gingerbread, they make cookies, it's a good time all the way around. The elementary school participated in curriculum work on January 3rd. Of course, Mr. Gillott's father came as one of Santa's helpers. And that was a pleasant surprise. The elementary kids loved him coming down, and that's just about it. Oh, thank you to Mrs. Valley for running the holiday shop. The kids were thrilled to be able to buy presents for their parents. So, kudos.
Thank you,
That's what's
Larry.
happening at the elementary in December.
Thank you, Larry.
Yeah.
Dr. Jones.
Yes. So currently of the 895 students in the district, 214 of those students qualify for special education services. 71 qualify under section 504. Just to clarify, the 71 are not part of the 214. But again, section 504 is for students under general education. As Superintendent Smith stated, our out-of-district number went up by 2 from last month, so we're at 27. We had a student that was in the Bradley program from a neighboring district that has moved into Thompson. So that caused that number to go up, and another student as well. But I would like to say to that, in the upcoming month, we should see some change in that number. And that could be moving somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 in our favor. Just by a student aging out and students graduating out of the Bradley program. So some really good things happening with the out-of-district number. Overall, the percent of special education is at 23.9%. Again, we're still neighboring to 6 different districts, and we're still holding firm with 7 transport vehicles as part of our out-of-district placement. We had a PD opportunity on January 3rd around confidentiality, timelines, eligibility, and parental rights with our special education attorney, Attorney Pennius. Unified basketball, again, signups were held. We now have a beautiful unified sports banner to represent Thompson Public Schools. And the schedule of games is currently being formatted thanks to Deb Spinelli and all of her efforts. And then lastly, just open positions. We still are struggling mightily in terms of filling our paraprofessionals. We also are going to be in need of a speech and language pathologist. And still looking for a few RBTs, registered behavior technicians. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. All right, Mr. Steglitz.
No typical financial report this month, but right now I'm focused pretty deeply on the budget. Changed up how we do it a little bit with working on what I hope to be a very flexible and user-friendly spreadsheet in terms of rolling the budget together into a kind of a consolidated picture. As of right now, all 3 of the schools are in there. The plant budget is in there. And the transportation budget is in there. Melinda and I are talking tomorrow to take a look at the broader budget as well as the district-wide budget.
Okay, so are we still on track for Friday?
Friday to have a first
Thank
draft to you guys, yes.
Okay, Mr. Birch.
Well, knock wood,
the weather has cooperated. This time it's all about the weather.
No.
So there hasn't been any substantial snow. The weather has been unseasonably warm, so that's all plus that help us get ahead of that deficit that we have in fuel oil this year. On the other note, over the Christmas break, we managed to remove the damaged section from the middle school boiler and shorten it up, so we now have that boiler back online.
Great.
We're about 100,000 BTUs per hour under capacity, which if the weather holds, that's not gonna be a problem. It'll only be a problem in severe cold weather. We also addressed a water booster system in the high school. That again dates back to 1986. There's been some issues with it. We had a flood one night. So that's been rebuilt. That's back under control and knock wood, everything's been pretty quiet.
It also saves on overtime, correct?
And we have saved on overtime thus far.
Thus far, yes. Thank you,
Horrible
Bill.
how you said back to 1986, because that's my graduation. Makes me feel old,
Long time ago.
Bill. Pre the new high school.
All of that stuff is past its life expectancy.
Oh. Just I'm an insurance liability now.
Yes.
So I have a question for
Yes.
Mr. Birch. So I was reading about the heating equipment and is there a solution under our current infrastructure to fix this, to get that 100,000 BTUs back?
Well, not really, but
Okay.
if you go back to maybe the last board report, the one before that. So the issue is that these are sectional boilers, they're built like a sandwich cookie.
Right.
With all pieces, and one of them leaks.
Right,
So the first step was to see if we could find a section to replace it. And there were none available.
of course.
The second step is to go to the manufacturer who informed us that the foundry is shut down.
I remember that, yep.
The foundry won't be back up and running again until March. And at that point, they don't believe that the new sections are going to be compatible with the old sections. So now it's, at that point, it's a matter of running it under capacity. As we mentioned before about the referendums we're going to talk about next week.
Yep.
One of those includes new boilers for the middle school. At which point, I'm thinking I could sell the rest of the sections on eBay and probably do okay.
Yeah,
Because
antiques.
I've looked all over the
Nice
country,
antiques from
I've looked all over the
1986.
country
Yeah,
to find a section for these boilers and I can't.
Right,
So I'm assuming somebody else may be doing the same thing. Beyond that, at some point. It's like if you have a Studebaker, sometimes you can't fix it anymore.
right.
And, at some point, then it's gonna have to be addressed one way or the other. The good news is, I think the boilers currently are over capacity. For what we have here. So I don't think losing a section on one boiler is gonna be a big deal. As I said, unless prolonged extreme cold.
Right.
Uh,
All right. 100,000 BTUs out of how many overall is that?
yeah, ask me a question. I think each
Ballpark.
one, I think each boiler is up around 600 and something thousand BTUs per hour.
Okay, thank you.
So we've dropped it maybe 20% on one boiler.
Right.
Not on two, so that only comes down to 5% on the whole system. But as I said, I personally believe that they were oversized when they were put in. I think that when they did that back in the 90s, they just matched what was there for steam boilers. And you don't need the same capacity in hot water boilers as you do for steam.
Okay,
So I think they started off over capacity.
all right, thank you.
Kathleen,
Yes.
one more question. This is probably for Bill and Bill. Are we on track right now? Obviously, we're in the positive here on snow removal spend. Oil consumption, I would imagine, and a lot of our electricity lines, correct? Or no?
If you cherry pick those lines that benefit from good weather, there's good news, but there's plenty of headwind in other areas.
Well, that's what I'm hoping. I mean, not,
I
it's not what
would
I'm
say
hoping,
that
but.
Net, I would say, I wouldn't, I wish I had had a chance to run the numbers quickly before I came down, but thinking back to last month, we were on track to be right at or just slightly under budget, but those numbers are bottom of bowl at this point.
So we have, knock on wood, we have like 11 weeks we have to get through, or actually 10. 3.5 weeks, let's just say in February or 4 or March, I mean, and then whatever we have left now, but try to get to April 1st. Yeah, I'm sure we're gonna have some snow days, but sure. Hoping we can at least gain something to, as you said, offset some of the other lines, right? All right.
So if I could, you just have to look at the lines and some lines are flexible, but oil is what oil is. So
We're
we
locked
con-
in,
we contract for a specific amount of oil.
right?
105,000, 110,000 gallons of oil. We bought that. We own it. We have to pay for it. We own it.
Right, I'm hoping that I'm hoping we have a surplus, so we don't have to.
Another one. On other lines, we'll pay for what we have overspent on oil as opposed to what we budgeted for.
Correct.
Okay, Miss Burns.
Kind of the same updates from me, still working on the power school system. Danette and I, last month, we had a 3-day webinar, which was like a really high level overview training on each portion of the system. So that when we do receive more in-depth training, so it's gonna make a lot more sense to us and we'll be able to help others. A lot of the things we're working on in the next couple of weeks are really getting the data from Tyler into Power School, so that's gonna be difficult. But we will truck along with that. We've begun setting up the new safety app that the district is gonna use to communicate amongst each other in drills. And I'm also working on setting up the new teacher evaluation software because the one that they're currently using is end of life. It used to be, the state used to supply it, but all the districts now have to go out and use their own. Luckily, we did choose the Power School program, so hopefully it will implement very easily and in conjunction with the Power School. Don't have to learn 2 separate systems. Other than that, just our usual break and fix repair stuff going on.
Thank you, Heather.
Kathleen.
Yes,
Is there a new email, what do you call it, a form?
So the website previously, you could go to the directory, like staff directory as a parent.
Yep.
And find your teacher and then just either copy, paste, or click on the email, had their telephone extension and then their email. And the last time I went to the website, it no longer had that. It had instead a form where you could fill out who you were asking for, what your email was, and supply your message, and then it would email it on your behalf. And it was a little cumbersome because like if you didn't have a Gmail or a Yahoo or a certain thing, you had to go through this whole verification process in order to just send the thing. So I didn't know if that was, I'm assuming it's not just unique to me.
No,
But it was very cumbersome as a parent to try to get a hold of the teacher I was trying to reach,
okay, I'll definitely look into that and see if you can improve on that, staff directory. I myself have gotten a couple emails from parents and I'm like, well, this doesn't really go to me. So I just forward it, to whoever it needs to go to, but
Right.
Is that
that's
a new,
probably what they filled out.
is it a new spam detector or something?
No, it's just new with the Edleo company when we switched our website over. So I'll have to see. I think there's a few different layouts and different options. So we'll have to change that. but-
Yeah, and I was trying to reach the high school, so I don't know if it makes a difference which school, but
Okay.
that was the one I was trying to reach.
That's all right.
hey, this
You got it.
Good
Good
practice.
evening. So this month I've been working on performance evaluations, creating them for non-certified staff, paraprofessionals, secretaries, facilities, security, and nurses. So that's been cumbersome. I'm presenting them with Melinda on Friday. I personally believe that everybody should have a performance evaluation. Everybody should know where they stand, what they're doing great, and what they need to challenge themselves with. I'm also working on a contract comparisons for the paraprofessionals, the nurses, and the cafeteria people from Melinda. I'm looking at the contracts for Plainfield, Killingly, Putnam, Pomfret, Brooklyn, and Woodstock. I'm compiling that information. I'm hoping to have that to Melinda by early next week. And then coming back to school, there's been a lot of, confidential things coming across my desk, both the town and the school. Everybody's been keeping me hopping this week, so that's what I have for this month.
Thank you, Michelle.
Kathleen?
Yes.
Are previously, up until now, did not everybody receive a performance evaluation if they weren't a teacher?
So there, some of them are dated. And some of them are just the checklists that don't give you a whole lot of information. So we want to update all of those. And there are a few bargaining units that hadn't received evaluations. So we're negotiating with those unions to make sure that that's in place.
Okay. So you're not allowed to evaluate somebody unless the union says you can?
They
That
need to review at least the evaluation tool. Still management rights, but we like to share that document and have conversation with them about the goal of the evaluation.
Right.
So it'll be that formal written document, for example, is new to the custodial rankings. So I'd want to sit with the custodian president and review it with them. So Michelle went out and did some research and found some evaluations that she's going to present to me on Friday. And then Bill and his team will review them and just make sure that it's an appropriate tool and it gets at what we need.
All right.
I've partnered with Bill and I'm partnering with Greg this week and Shannon this week to actually make sure that they had a key buy-in as I was writing them. So that, we're all on the same page on everything, and they're not by any means, as high level or high detailed as any of the directors or administrators, but it's really good for people to have an understanding of where they are.
Any other questions? Okay. We move on to Ms. Grauer.
I don't have a lot new. I mean, we're still kind of in the thick of sixth season. There's a lot of flu A out there right now. A lot of strep throat. I'm not seeing a ton of COVID, but I don't know, I feel like people are over it, and I don't know if I get a lot of information regarding that at this point. People are good about leaving messages when their kids are out sick. I think that's gotten a lot better, so we know, why they're out. But I don't have a lot. It's kind of still in the thick of it. I haven't seen a lot of fallout from vacation yet.
Got a lot of flu going around.
I have a question that might be both Melinda and or Dr. Mayo and Shannon. So for instance, my son is at Turtle Lot and he got a letter about some absences. Some of which, half of them were because he was sick and I decided to keep him home because I didn't want to go share it around the school. Now, it wasn't sick like bring him to the doctor sick, but he, had a sore throat or he felt a little nauseous or whatever. And the next day was resolved and went back to school. But those count as unexcused absences, even though he was sick.
Well,
And I just didn't, and it said without a doctor's note or something.
so there's you could speak more to the limit.
Well, Dr. Mayo, when you send out those letters,
So the letters are, obviously with our designations opportunity.
Yeah,
We're kind of on the microscope on a number of things. One of the things is attendance.
right.
So while your child will not be affected as far as grade or anything like that, we have
Right.
to document that
Yeah.
they're going down the road, making sure they're doing. And a lot of those meetings, what they've turned into is, oh, I did go to the doctor, she did that. Okay, well then, let's call the doctor, get us this week, and put it in that.
Right.
So unfortunately, the way it's written, and this is, I think the Connecticut thing is if you go to a doctor, that's a medical, it's ME designation. But unless we have something from the doctor, it's not ME, it's just absent unexcused. So, so that's really what one of the meetings is, to make sure that there's not something missing, like we're missing doctor's notes or something they give us. They're
Yeah.
inexcusable, whatever. And it's more for us to clean up, because one of the things that we really talked about was unexcused absences and everything, so we want to make sure that whatever we send to the state is actually factual. So if parents do have letters, they give to us, we can clean that up, make sure that it's safe.
So though, in my case where it's unexcused because he was sick,
It only goes.
does that
above-
count against us as a district?
No, but what I think happens is parents are allowed to excuse a certain number of absences, right?
Okay,
So say somebody goes on vacation
right,
and you've already used 7 to 10 days of it, right?
right,
Anything after that 10 days, whether you say, hey, he's home
right.
and he's sick, is unexcused at that point.
Right.
Because it's in excess, I guess, right?
So do those count though against us? I mean, for instance, I mean, if someone has COVID and you didn't go to the doctor, because the doctor doesn't necessarily want to see you with
I
COVID
know.
if you've tested at home, you
Right,
know?
so when people share that information.
Yeah,
That is a automatic medical excuse.
okay, good.
because
I just didn't want it hurting us as a district, that
Right.
people are being cautious and not sending their kid to
And it's
school.
really when you get to a certain number, then that child gets designated as chronic absentee,
I-
and then that's when we really get hit. So we're just trying to keep ourselves under that number as best we can for each kid.
Right,
And Shannon's right, if you call and talk to Shannon and say, you're so because of COVID or medical, or something like that, then that's. fair.
Okay.
But hey, my son has a step on the allergies, whatever,
yeah,
that's kind of. that's
Right.
the thing.
okay.
What's the protocol now for if they test positive for COVID? Is it automatic 3 days or what? I don't know, it's 5. Wow,
5 school days or 5 calendar days?
from the date that they test
So if
positive.
you're
right?
sick. 2 days before you test positive, say.
Yeah.
You go back to the start of your symptoms.
Yeah.
The first day you have symptoms is your day 0. The first day is your day 1. Count forward 5, day 6 is your return date.
All right, so it's not.
And we
5
ask
from- It's
that
not
people-
5 from the test date then,
So if you test and you don't have any symptoms,
right?
your test date is 0, and the next day is your day 1. And then you count 5.
Gotcha.
Day 6 is the day you return. And we ask that people wear a mask. We highly suggest it, but there's no mandate, so we can't make anybody wear them. I also think that the letters actually have opened up channels of communication. At least in the high school, for what I've seen, I think we've gotten some positive out of it, even speaking with the kids about it. They understand a little bit more why we worry about them and why we, they need to be in school. My experience. with
Just,
the meetings.
it's too bad that we get hit as a district. For the non-excused, even though they're sick with the flu, okay, which.
I think.
Sometimes it's far worse right now than the COVID symptoms.
Yeah.
Yes, I
You
understand.
know what I
And to
mean?
be honest with you, it's generally a relatively high number when it hits us. So, I mean, that's really what we're trying to do, but to Nurse Garland's point too, I think having these meetings, a lot of parents have said, oh, I didn't realize, if I can send it to the doctor, I can excuse it, I just trying to figure whatever, and so the conversations have really. I think it's probably kind of a great for Nurse Garland. Paperwork, it's just now, but we're getting a lot of paperwork back from parents. So it's been pretty good. And at the same time, usually guys with those kids are out, but at times, we usually roll that into a stack of meeting too. If they have that, I'm thinking now, I'll be able to do a teacher, also.
So to piggyback off of Heather, it kind of still puts her in a predicament though, because like she doesn't want to send him to school because he's sick, but is it almost worth her sending him in and then having him sent home? Or, you know what I mean? Like, because if it's still gonna mess with you either way, if he's not worthy of going to the doctors, like I get what they're saying, like, it's just the way it's all written, it makes no sense.
But
Yeah.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
the way the state records attendance,
Right.
you're either here or you're not here,
Right.
and they pick those numbers up.
Right.
And then we get dinged, but luckily, all the other districts are getting dinged as well, because, flu season is running rampant everywhere. But it's one of the variables that put us in this boat, and we honestly believe, going back several years, that some of the data that was being sent to the state wasn't as accurate as it is now. I mean, we have a data manager now that's dedicated to making sure the data that's going up to the state is all accurate. We take, and Heather can tell you, report after report, and making sure those numbers are right. There's a lot of time and effort put into it. But you're right, at the end of the day, we do get held accountable for attendance rate. But it's a fine line we're walking here right now, because there's so much illness. And we want to encourage kids to come to school, but we don't want to encourage kids to come to school sick. So it's a double-edged sword.
So one of the other problems is the fact that people don't take into account, it's very difficult to get doctor's appointments in our area. You can't get them within a day or two for a sick kid.
Well, right, and
You
not
have, I
only
mean,
that,
it can take a week.
Yeah.
My 6-month-old couldn't even be seen for a week, my grandson. So it's
Yeah.
a lot of it in our region is the fact that they just don't have enough doctors and appointments to take care of some of these kids. So the family keeps them home. But then the school gets penalized because they can't really see a doctor within the time of their sickness.
or the cost of the co-pays are just like the charge, like just for myself to go to the doctor's office, I was like, Lord, I have pretty decent health insurance, and he's like $200 for just a quick visit, So I'm like, I'm sure other people have kind of interesting co-pays as well,
I do receive letters from doctors saying this parent reported on these dates, the student was out sick,
Yeah,
and that the students are excused by the doctor because the parent checked in with the doctor.
really? Okay.
I do get those quite often, actually.
You mean
Okay.
they've checked in but didn't see them?
They haven't seen them, but
They
the
did check
parent
in.
has called.
Yep.
And then I get it on the, the physician's letterhead stating that the parent has been in contact and student had blah, blah, blah on these dates.
Are our parents aware of this procedure thing? Okay, so they know about it.
Yep, remember I reviewed that with the board at the beginning of the year, the procedure, and then the levels of intervention that happens at each school when you hit a certain threshold.
So if you get that, Shannon, that'll count towards an excuse.
I've had contact with the doctors acknowledged it.
Yeah.
And I get it. I understand that kids get sick, but I guess in the scheme of things also, and I used to put my kids to go away, but you have to think forward enough to say, okay, maybe I'm gonna get a letter. I know my kid goes to school when they're supposed to, you know what I mean? I think it's just the open communication between the school and the parents. Because a lot of times we get nothing.
All right, Ms. Spinelli. We're in the middle of our basketball season. All teams are struggling. Middle school, girls, high school. Indoor track has participated in their first indoor meet at Coupon, and this weekend they're going to Providence for a technical school for indoor meet. And their championship meet will be February 5th at Coast Guard Academy. So their season will finish much quicker than everybody else. Handle player, like I said before, is named All-State in the banquet where she will be acknowledged at the AquaTurf on the 22nd. That's it for the administrative reports. Old business. No old business. Moving on to new business, we have our 23-24 school calendar. Linda did review it. We were on the phone together reviewing it. Apparently, the holidays are correct. Board meetings do not fall on any holidays.
That's good news.
That's all I can vouch for.
There were goals behind developing this budget. I mean, this calendar, budget's on my mind. Calendar primarily, we've been working over the years to increase instructional minutes. And so trying to reduce the number of half days. That came through from a few years ago in parent survey where that was cumbersome for families to get childcare. So we've done a decent job. I reviewed this calendar with the union president, a TA union president, and she agrees with the calendar. The difference this year, where we usually dropped a PD day in March, we have two big initiatives this coming school year. One is the writing program for K-6, which is going to need a lot of professional development. And then also, the state has mandated districts switch to a reading program that's on their approved list. Luckily, we are using a reading program that's on their approved list, but we're using the 2017 version. And it's the 2020 version of Wonders that has been approved by the state. So we have to segue over to the new reading program. There is some costs associated with that I'm trying to finagle some grants to cover. And I begged the publisher to put us on a payment plan. So I think we're going to be in okay shape. We're not going to submit a waiver to the state. We are just going to comply, but there's professional training around the upgrade that our teachers K-6 are going to need. So that's why we put the PD upfront in October. We're going to need that day.
Is there not a 2022 version? Should we just?
So
get
there
ahead of it?
is, however,
More expensive?
so no, the one that was approved by the state is the 2020 version. Believe me, this has caused an upheaval with the 169 districts across the state because there is a monetary impact for any district that isn't using an approved reading program. I think we're lucky because we only have to buy certain components because we have the base, we have the basals, we have the anthologies, we have the base of the program. So, but there is some training associated with that for the teachers. So we want to make sure that we're giving them some time we'll be able to do one of the trainings for the writing in August, and then we'll be able to devote the October date or vice versa to the upgrade. So, that's why we're putting in October, which we don't typically have a PD day in October. That's the only difference in the calendar. And the only other change is graduation will be moved up to the first Friday of the month rather than the second, primarily because it's just the way the school year ends.
So I was just gonna ask that question because I thought we had voted in that we were setting graduation, so it's always the second Friday, so we never had an issue.
Yes, but if I put it on the 14th and we don't have any snow time, then there's going to be a whole week of time in between the end of school and graduation.
But is that because we're starting August 23rd?
We always start that week.
Do?
Mhm.
For real?
So why is school then so early? We're not allowed.
No, we usually have those on us.
I
Okay,
don't build
Yeah.
from the whole.
Yeah.
It's gonna be snow days next year.
yeah, so why would we change graduation knowing that we're gonna have some?
But we can't guarantee it, and it's on a Friday, so that's why I put it on the first Friday. I want to make sure the teachers come back for.
I agree. I'm just because we confirmed that we were gonna try to keep it so. Senior classes, could always plan their trip on that, and we never had an issue, never had to move it.
But
So
once you set it in the calendar, you don't have to change it. So if you approve this calendar this evening,
Yeah.
and graduation is on June 7th, and we have snow days, graduation can still be on June 7th.
so how
for the
many
new
snow
regulations.
days is this anticipating?
It doesn't. We add them on after.
But then
Then we're in the situation we had for all the years prior. where we're scrambling with dates and.
No, graduation will still remain on June seventh. If you set the calendar with that date, the new state regs say
That's correct.
that you can go ahead and have graduation on the date that you originally planned and approved in the calendar.
Even if
but
the
then-
seniors don't achieve 100 and whatever.
Correct.
days.
Right, we had this discussion last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Correct.
we,
That is the state regulation, but then the teachers are scrambling, but then they have to have finals before everybody else has finals.
They're gonna have finals before everybody else has finals anyway. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
But the whole idea was to avoid this, and we set it for the second. To avoid all this problem.
Well, you can put it at the second, but I'm just gonna tell you that the teachers aren't gonna, I mean, they're gonna go on vacation and they won't be here for graduation. That's what I'm worried about.
Well, then they're not very dedicated teachers.
We talked about
That's exactly why we did it and set that date.
I have no issue changing.
Then you would think.
I have a problem with that too. I would like to see it set for the second Friday of, because we're going to have snow days. And if the teachers don't come back, then shame on them. They can plan their vacation for the third week of June, knowing that graduation is the second.
Is there a Board of Education meeting in October of 2023?
It just
I think
matches,
it's in,
it just matches on
13th,
the.
Yeah, oh, it's overlapping.
Okay.
Tuesday, the tenth.
Triangle there.
Yeah, there's a triangle and a square.
Mine only has the,
No, you
Square.
can kind
It's-
of.
Oh, okay.
If they're the same color, you can't
Gotcha.
really, it's
Okay.
not very
fair
defined.
enough, thank you,
PDF version shows the difference between the
The-
orange
the-
and the.
Okay.
Yeah.
thank you.
All right,
how does,
so
yeah, Kathleen, just one question. So this year, when did we start this year in August?
same date, very
We
early.
started really early this year, but I feel like it was
When did?
earlier than normal.
No,
we always started-
It was earlier than normal.
How long you been on the board though?
No, I know,
Because
but I
it's
don't
always the
remember
week
being almost
before-
2 weeks.
A week
Labor Day.
before Labor Day, but not a week and a half.
No, it's always been a week and a half before Labor Day, yeah, because they always get the full week in before Labor Day and we usually start midweek the week before.
Yeah.
That's
okay.
been the same way since
Seems
my kids
awfully
have been in
early.
school for the last.
It seems way, like, now we're, we have a heating issue already at the school, we have a cooling issue. And you're putting it right in the prime time rather than, I
Well,
don't know, I just don't remember it starting so early. I
well,
don't
we're
remember.
going back to our childhood when we started after
Labor
Labor
Yeah,
Day.
I'm trying to
Yeah.
live the 86.
Since I've been here, it's been.
Okay. All right, so I don't have an issue with that, but I would like to change the June 14th. Okay, graduation to June 14th. Do I have that? Do I have a motion to change that? Graduation date is the 14th, and keep with our regular.
I'll make a motion to accept the calendar with the one exception, the graduation date moves to June 14th.
I will second that.
All in favor of accepting the calendar with that amendment, say aye.
All right,
No.
Wait a minute, I didn't ask. for that. Okay, we're gonna have to do okay. Val,
Yes.
No,
Yes.
No,
yes, well, like you vote last. Yes,
Yes.
I'm torn, but I'm gonna say yes.
yes.
the ayes have it. Okay, so that's that. Now, do we have to go to the union now? And
No,
No,
I mean, that's your.
okay, all right. Second item is discussion of the bus transportation bids and possible action on award of transportation bus contract. Now, the way this is written, I really don't know how to address this. The subcommittee, the negotiations subcommittee had an executive session, of which we all came to a concession on the award of the bus contract. We reviewed both contracts.
Yes.
We reached 4 points. I don't need a motion on the board, on the floor right now to discuss this, correct? I do need a motion.
For
Okay,
purposes of discussion, you should have a motion.
okay. For purposes of the, what was the what was the?
Well,
Make-
for approval,
Okay.
I'll make a motion
Okay.
that the Board of Ed accept the subcommittee recommendation to award bus contract.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay. Okay, first of all, the first point that we raised was that M&J's bid for regular transportation, which is the major portion of the bid, was an 8.5% increase over this year versus DATCO, who remained flat. Also, we raised the issue of there are inherent costs of transitioning between bus companies. If we went to M&J, there are hidden costs or inherent costs in transitioning between them. We have a relationship with DATCO, well, not perfect. We have worked hard to work out the bugs. DATCO is ready to go on day one, and they have the infrastructure in place to service our district. We also believe that DATCO's bid is in the best interest for our district. Other points raised that an RFP is not a contract, it is an invitation to enter into a contract. If the board is amenable, it will entertain a motion to allow our attorneys to draw up the contract. Essentially, that's yes.
As a member of the negotiation committee, I highly recommend that we approve the DATCO contract. Simply the year one, it's just too expensive, and it's gonna be hard enough to pass a budget this year without that huge increase. So on that alone, I think that's a reason to go with DATCO. So that would be my recommendation as a subcommittee member.
How many years is this contract for? Potentially?
5.
5.
What's the percentage of increase per year?
All right,
Going up,
DATCO is increasing 5% per year.
Not the first year though.
but
not
not
the
the
first
first
year.
Not
First
from
year
going
is
from this
flat.
year to this year,
Yeah.
it'll stay the same,
It'll
but
stay the
the
same.
following years it'll be
Right.
at 5%.
Other portions have gone up and are
Mhm.
fluctuating, but that major portion of the bid is remaining flat from last year to this year. Whereas M&J went up 8.5%, but some of theirs were lower than that, it fluctuated
And what was M&G's increase per year over
4%,
4%?
but that
The
8.5.
half to begin with is, okay. Another question?
Yes,
Was there anything in the contract in regards to having
we don't have a contract.
Right.
This is a bid.
just the bid? Is there anything in the bid in regards to having a communication app for parents?
Yes, that
That's in
was
the
in
bid.
our RFP. Both
Okay.
companies agreed to have that. That was in our RFP.
Okay.
Is it a possibility to maybe link in with another town that, I mean, I know contracts end at different times, but if DATCO services multiple towns in the area to do a group rate per se, or even almost like a regionalization of the busing? I don't know if that's
Everybody's contracts expire at different times.
Right.
We haven't done a regional bid.
yeah.
Some regional districts do that. We didn't pursue a regional bid.
We did talk about it.
Yeah.
We've talked about it at different points, but it's.
I mean,
never-
maybe that's something that DATCO would open up to entertain the idea and maybe revise
Well,
contract. I don't know, but I would think that more so towns would I mean, personally, I have a lot of clients that, are in Woodstock and they're having budget issues too, and they're worried too, and I know their DACO, you know, so I don't know, you know,
Right.
just as
And-
like, and we're trying to pull insurance stuff, like maybe there's other ways we can pull with other towns.
Is there a way to put a clause in like the RFPs or when it becomes a contract to say that, if the ability to get out of our contract early if we were to merge into another.
I
town's
don't know
contract?
that, we're not talking contracts.
No, I know,
We're
I'm just
talking
saying, but-
about doing the bid,
Right.
accepting their bid. That language, we're gonna turn that over to our attorney.
Mhm.
They are going to do the contract with DACO. We're not making a contract.
So, as a member of the committee, that ship has already sailed for RFPs.
Yeah.
So if we were to entertain that, we would have to scrap everything.
And start all
from
over.
Square
Yeah.
one.
I see.
So that ship's kind of already sailed
Right,
for this go round.
right, but the next 5 years.
Right.
And then by the time Woodstock's probably only got 3 years left on their contract, I don't know, so.
2 or 3 years.
Pardon me?
They go 3 now.
Okay, so, so for that, any more discussion on that? Because we came out of the executive session with the recommendation to go stay with that though. Right. So now I will entertain a motion put before the board, whether or not they agree with the recommendation of the negotiations.
I'll make a motion that the Board of Education contracts, accepts the bid from DATCO for the next 5 years.
I'll second that as a member of the negotiation committee.
All right, given that, any more discussion on that motion? No, all in favor of accepting the recommendation from the negotiations committee, say aye.
Aye.
Any, all opposed, say no. Any abstentions? And I will direct. The motion passes, I will direct, Melinda to contact the Sador. And go ahead. Right, any correspondence? Citizens' comments? No citizens' comments? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.